Do we have any question from the last class? Any question? Any question? Anything that needs clarification? Okay. Busayo, what was your take home from the last class?
Okay, we spoke about risk management in the last part.
Busayo, we spoke about risk management. So what happened to risk management?
I haven't gone through the notes to revise, but I know that was like the broad overview of what we spoke about of the discussion. But I'm going to take my time
Okay.
to look through the entire notes. Okay.
Okay. Miracle, what was your take home? Is Miracle on the call? Bukumi, what was your take home from the last class?
Good evening, everybody. Yeah, from the last class, the first thing my take home was the analysis you did for us. First of all, that's like the major thing. The analysis you did for us regarding risk management. How I wrote it down, but I don't have the notes here where I wrote it down because that was I asked you for the material where how we the things we have to look at, the processes we have to check, and then in a situation whereby we see that okay, no, we talked about CFO, the people you need to the assets that you need to analyze basically relating to the risk. Where you explained to me then that this if the CFO is the director, that you have to separate the director from CFO, and then assess and analyze the risk, and then you also gave us some formulas we have to use. We can use 1 to 5, then you can also use high, low, medium, and the rest. Also, we also looked at clause 8.0, where we talked about operational planning and control. Then that's for 8.1. Then 8.2, we talked about information security assessment and then treatment too, basically.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Bukumi. So in the last class, we looked at clauses 6 to 8, typically clause 6 to 8, and we need to go back to that video if we do not have clear understanding, right? So and then if we go back to the video at a different time and we have questions, let's drop them on the group chat, right? Today I'll be teaching us with the standard. I will not be using the material. I'll just use the standard to teach us the other requirements that we have within the ISO 27001 standard. And if you look at where we are coming from, we started from context of the organization. That's clause 4. That is where you identify the business strengths, the business model, the mission, the vision. You identify the key stakeholders, interested parties, the scope of the information security management system. And then it goes on to leadership. That is where leaders put process in place and then they are committed to the implementation of the information security management system. And then it goes on to, after clause 5, 5.2 talks about policy, where leadership puts policy in place. 5.3 talks about roles and responsibility, where they now assign relevant roles because top management cannot do everything themselves. And then it goes on to clause 6, planning. That is where you plan for the information security management system by identifying actions to address risk and opportunity from internal and external issues, interested parties, and other domains. Also, where you carry out risk assessment, where you carry out risk treatment, and where you identify your information security objectives within your information security management system. And then it goes on to, you can see the flow, and then it goes on to clause 7. That is where you support. You have already identified the context of the organization. You have already put leadership commitment in place. You have already planned for the information security management system. Now you are putting support in terms of relevant resources that is needed to ensure that the implementation, the improvement makes a lot of sense. Also, support in the sense that competence for key process owners, right? People that manage information security within the organization. Also support in terms of relevant awareness for the information security management system. And then a lot of other things that you can do to support the ISMS. And then we looked at operation after clause 7 because you have already identified context, put leadership process in place, you have planned for the ISMS, you have supported the ISMS, then it is now left for you. You have gotten to a stage where you need to operate what you have implemented over time so far. And that is where operations comes in. And that is where also controls come in, your annex controls from Annex 5 to Annex 8 also come in. And then once you have operated all of the processes that you have identified within your ISMS, all of the controls, all of the requirements that you have identified within your ISMS, once you have operated them, the next thing, which is what we want to talk about now, is to evaluate the performance of the operations that you have put in place. It's just like you have been planning a particular business, you have identified the context for the business, you have carried out risk assessment on that business, you have put relevant leadership process in place for the business, you've put relevant things to support the business in terms of resources, maybe people resources, financial resources, or resources in terms of availability, and other relevant things that are needed for that business. And then clause 8, you have operated that business. Clause 9 is now telling you, evaluate the performance of the business. You can see the structure of the ISO standard. If you're able to identify, to understand the structure of the standard, you don't need to cram it. All of these things, I know them by heart. Like, I know them by heart because I understood the structure, even though I've implemented and audited over time, but I understood the structure, and then over time, it made it easy for me to be able to get it. So performance evaluation clause 9, this is where you evaluate the performance. And then we have 3 subclauses under clause 9. 9.1 is monitoring, measurement, analysis, and evaluation. You see, this part is a critical part, very critical. And I've been implementing for over 3 years now, auditing for over 3 years. I just sat down a few weeks ago to really understand this thing in depth. And I'll tell you my understanding, right, from this part. Now, the mistakes the organization make in this regard, let me read it for you. It says the organization shall determine what needs to be monitored. You can see, it says what needs to be monitored. You should determine it. The standard will not tell you what you should monitor. It will not give you what you should monitor. You as an organization should determine what you want to monitor, including information security processes and controls, including information security processes that you want to monitor, including controls that you want to monitor. Now, let me tell you a mistake that businesses make here. Because and if you are an implementer, or let's say you work with a consulting firm and over time you've been implementing, or within an organization you've been implementing, you will notice that the material or the Excel sheets that they use to carry out clause 9.1 is almost the same thing across all organizations that you are going to see. Why? Because people just pick up materials from different places and then they just utilize it. No, the standard did not say monitor and measure clause 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Monitor and measure all of the annex control. The standard says determine what you need to monitor. It is not everything that you can monitor and measure. Monitor and measure those things that are peculiar to your environment. For instance, if an internal issue, and what informs monitoring and measurement should be the need for the things that you want to monitor and measure. Not everything. You don't necessarily monitor and measure everything. A typical example is, let's say you have an internal issue from your assessment when you are carrying out your internal and external assessment. You have an internal issue that says insider threat. Insider threat. I want to throw something out. Which control is a typical control that we can monitor and measure to ensure that we address that insider threat that we have identified? I'm looking for someone. Which control? The control is in the Annex Controls that we can monitor and measure. Anybody?
Annex 7.
Anybody? Annex 7. Annex 7 is physical security. Okay, let me give us the control is in Annex 6. People control. So, and Robinson, when you said Annex 7, physical security, what control is particular? 6.8 event reporting.
So my thought process for my thought process.
Okay.
My thought process for picking. Okay, my thought process for picking fiscal control is, I was thinking in line of what's it called, a large organization, access control, who has access to what, who does what, basically I was looking towards insider threat and all of that.
Okay, you know that is a very fantastic monitoring and measurement. If you monitor and measure Annex 7.1 physical entry, in fact, the first 3 physical security control, let's say for instance, insider threat. What if the person moves into the CEO's office and they went to pick critical documents or resource plans, or goes into the office of the product manager and picks a critical product that the business is currently building? That's a fantastic thing to measure. And that's a reason to measure. You can see the need from your internal and external issue. In fact, there can be a need from assessments that you have within the organization. So it is not necessary to monitor and measure everything within the ISM. In fact, it is not effective to monitor and measure everything. You can monitor and measure key processes. For instance, this is the first time you are implementing ISO 27001 within your organization. You can decide to monitor and measure leadership commitments, Clause 5. How leadership is committed to the implementation of the ISMS. And let's say, how do you want to monitor and measure? Let's say you have planned to carry out management review 2 times in a year. And then your formula will be, you want to measure the total number of management review that you have stated that you carry out over the total number of management review that was actually carried out. So if you have stated that you must do 2 management review within a year, and then you did 1 at the end of the year, it means you have not fulfilled that requirement. It means you have not, in terms of evaluation, that particular process has not fed into the effectiveness of the ISMS and is not working, is not performing as it's supposed to perform. And that will inform you to be able to put process in place to ensure that those things do not happen again. You can see the essence of performance evaluation. Performance evaluation will help you to evaluate your own performance as an organization. What are the things? It helps you to identify the things you are doing well, the things you are not doing well as an organization. So you can decide to monitor and measure various controls based on your information, based on your pain point, the things that you need to monitor and measure. For instance, if you had always had issues with let's say critical servers going off, a critical control that you can monitor and measure will be information security aspect of business continuity, Annex 5.30 something, 5.20 something or 5.30 something. It's a control you can monitor and measure. Talking about ICT readiness for business continuity. That, if light goes off, what happens? If this server goes down, what happens? That's a control you can monitor and measure. So there must be a drive to monitor and measure. So so as to not to have a very robust monitoring and measurement process in place, implementation in place, but you are not achieving what you are supposed to achieve. So it is dependent on you as an organization, what you want to monitor and measure, the method you want to use in monitor and measure, whether you want to use quantitative or qualitative, whether it is going to be by number or you want to qualify it. Who we monitor and measure? When the results from the monitoring and measurement shall be analyzed. Now, who we monitor and measure? The process of the, for instance, Robinson talked about physical security for insider threats. There are other controls we can monitor and measure for insider threats, but let's take on the physical security. The person that is responsible to monitor and measure that, maybe the facility manager, or maybe the CISO, or somebody that has rights to managing physical security reviews and controls. And then the person that monitors in some cases will be different from the person that collects the results. And in some other cases, they can be the same. So the facility manager can monitor and measure. The facility manager can also be the one to collect the results. But then the person who analyzes should be different. Right? Because if the facility manager monitors, collects the results, and it's also the one that analyzes, there might be bias. But if the information security manager now collects that data from the facility manager, okay, facility manager, he said in the last 3 months, there were no unauthorized access into any location. This is the data you gave to me. Then the ISMS manager will now benchmark that data against what is actually implemented, probably review the access control system. That is analysis. And that is where evaluation of the results comes in. And you have carried out performance evaluation of a particular control. So you can monitor and measure multiple controls, monitor and measure processes. So by the time you are done monitoring and measuring all of them, then you carry out an assessment of the effectiveness of everything as a whole to see how each of the control you are monitoring and measuring, each of the clauses and processes that you are monitoring and measuring, how they helping you achieve your information security objective as a whole. And then there's a possibility that you can grow for monitoring and measuring a process and leave out that process and focus on another process. Probably the process has gotten to a level of utmost performance. And then there are other processes that you know that you need to monitor and continually look at so that they can also be improved. That's what 9.1 is talking about. Still under performance evaluation, to evaluate the performance of the information security management system. Now, part of evaluation is internal audits. You see, this internal audit is very critical. Very critical. If you implement the ISO 27001 for an organization, you must not do the internal audits. If you do the internal audit, if the external auditor comes to audit you, that is a major non-conformity. It means you will not be certified as an organization. So because internal audit is based on relevant principles like impartiality, confidentiality, right? To ensure that, okay, so internal audit is more like you built a system that the designer, let's use an application for an example. You design an application. The same you that designed the application is the same you that documented the documents and the security requirements for that application. Is the same person that did testing of that application. Is the same person that deployed the application. No segregation of duty. So in internal audit, it is not, if you implement the ISO 27001 and then you are also the person that is auditing it, there can be bias. For instance, I remember one time, please, this part of the video should not go out. So many years ago, my elder brother, you know, because he's very close, he's also a staff in the college where I studied. And then the lecturer gave him some question papers to mark. And then it happened to be his class because he was a staff and he was also schooling then. It happened to be his class. Please tell me, even though I'm a born again person, I'm a good Christian, should I mark myself down? I need somebody to tell me. Should I mark myself down or just try to see how I can?
Mark yourself down.
I should mark myself down. Very
Yes,
good.
no,
Very
you're
good.
Christian.
Very good.
You You close your eye and mark yourself down. Emma
I
Bodi,
will
Emma
close my
Daddy.
eyes. All right. So that's typically what I'm trying to say, right? It's just like the maker and the checker. So you cannot implement for an organization and also audit that company, but you can implement for company A and audit company B. Do you understand? So you can implement for company A, audit company B, but you cannot implement for company A and audit company B. That is the requirement. Now, as part of performance evaluation, what 9.2 is saying is that there must be an audit internally. Before you go for your external audit, you yourself evaluate yourself as an organization. Let there be an internal auditor, somebody that is independent of the implementation process. Right? Let the person carry out an assessment of what you have built, implemented, designed over time. And then the person will be able to identify where there are issues and where there are no issues, so that it will keep you informed and then get you ready for the external audit. In some cases also, the internal auditor is the person that will serve as a follow-up on behalf of the external auditor, because the internal auditor will be in the company. The external auditor will be outside the company. Now, if the external auditor audits you and they get to certify, they may necessarily not come back to your company until after 1 year, even though they have given you some minor non-conformities. It is now the role of the internal auditor to say, okay, those minor non-conformities that the external auditor gave us last year, we promised that we are going to close them so and so time. Have we closed them? These are some of the things that the internal auditor does. Evaluate based on the criteria, based on the scope of the audit, carry out an assessment within the organization to get readiness for the external audit. But the internal audit process is not because you want to get ready for the external audit. It's also an assurance function to assure management that, yes, we are managing security to an acceptable level. And these are some of the risks that we have found out. Part of performance evaluation also is clause 9.3. Now, this is where management comes to now evaluate. Remember in clause 5.3, the standard says management should appoint. Clause 5 is leadership. 5.3 is information security rules, responsibilities, and authorities. Then 5.3 says management should appoint someone that will report on the performance of the ISMS to them. This is where they now make that reporting and some other places. So depending on the organization, right, the frequency to carry out management review is dependent on them. This thing came out in the exam that people did. It is dependent on you as to the frequency of your management review. If you say you want to do it twice in a year, you must do it twice in a year. If you say you want to do it annually, you can do it annually. If you say you want to do it 3 times in a year, you must do it 3 times in a year, because that is your requirement. You documented them, and then you have to be binded by that, even though the standard did not state the frequency of doing it. This is another thing that we need to take note of. If an organization has a policy, even though the standard did not explicitly state that policy, but if there is a policy that they will do something, they must do it. For instance, I audited the fintech today, and then part of their policy is that when user accounts are no longer needed, when people leave the organization, when they resign, they are going to suspend the accounts without deletion. And then I was reviewing, they explained the process to me. Okay, fantastic. And I told them, who left the company in the last 6 months? Oh, so and so person left the company. Okay, let me see evidence of the registration from the platforms that this person has access to. Then they took me to one of their platforms, and then the person searched for the name, and the person told me that you can see the name is not there. That means we have removed the account. And I asked, what do you mean remove the account? Said deleted. But your process document says you are not going to delete. You are only going to suspend and archive that account instead of deletion. Was there an express approval from management for you to delete? Or do you have another process document that defines the point, the timeline as to when you delete these accounts? Now, the standard did not state it, but their process document stated it, that they are not going to delete. So you are binded by what you have stated. The same thing is applicable for other requirements within ISO 27001. Clause 9.3 did not state the frequency of management review, but you yourself you had stated that you are going to carry out management review twice in a year. If I'm coming to audit you, I will request for evidence of 2 reports. If company A says once in a year, I request for 1 report. If company B says 5 times in a year, I request for 5 reports if I'm auditing at the end of the year. So the frequency is dependent on the organization, right? We have one hand. Bukola.
Okay, thank you. I just want to get clarity. So, I actually work in a second tier bank, and on our ISMS manager, as in ISMS calendar, it says that we have to, there's going to be like 4 times, as in the management review has to take place 4 times. So, as at the time PECB came, we've not done the last quarter one. So, but we gave them 3 evidences, but they still gave us a minor non-conformity that I'm still trying to prove to them that, okay, the 3rd, which is the last one, is supposed to be the last quarter. And you guys came to auditors before, you came to auditors 3rd quarter, and they still gave us an NC for it. What do you think I should do? Well, that has ended. So I am asking based on next or subsequent external whatever, so I can prove myself with points. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so the process of auditing is based on experience and being open-minded, and also to be realistic. So the problem with auditors in this space is that they are checklist based, and they do not really have understanding and visibility into how these processes work. I don't audit a company, right? I don't audit a company based on checklists. The way I audit is different, and that is why I've seen cases where companies, they specifically send mail to my company that we want so and so person to come and carry out our audit, not because I will not drill them, but because they know I will drill them and then I will give them value. Now, if MSCCB, not PCB, PCB is person's evaluation that certify people. MSCCB is the one that certifies management system. That is your company. So that should be MSCCB. So if MSCCB auditors are coming to audit you in the last quarter, there's something we call an anomaly. I think it's an anomaly. There's a name we give to it. It is not a non-conformity. In fact, it's not an observation, right? It is not an observation. It's not a non-conformity, because you had stated that you are going to do it 4 times in a year, and I am coming in the 3rd quarter. I don't expect you to have done the 4th one. In fact, if you give me 2 reports that shows that you have done it in the first 2 quarters, and you tell me that, oh, this 3rd quarter, we are still planning the next one, I will not give you a minor non-conformity. That's being realistic. And that's understanding what is currently going on, right? Especially if it is within the audit year in review. If I'm auditing a particular year to year, so within that year in review, and now, it is now dependent. You know, the way we calculate annual audit cycle is not January to December. Your annual audit cycle can be from last year April to this year April. So if I'm coming to audit you this year April, you will not tell me that if we are still in April. Do you understand, Bukola? Because I'm auditing you based on last year April to this year April. So if that is the case, that they're auditing you based from last year April to this year April, and they came, let's say they came like January, February, they came like around January, and they give you a minor non-conformity, then that is not being realistic. You can push for that. That's not being realistic, right? And they are not open-minded, right? So that's it. Yeah, and I know that there are other issues around that when you meet with auditors. So I've met with an auditor some time ago. You know, when you know what you are doing, and then somebody's coming to also go you on the call. Some of us will read the requirement for ourselves on top call. You understand? But it's good to be open-minded as an auditor. You need to learn the company's environment, see what they do. If you get to some other companies, what they do will defy what you know. You are not going to say minor non-conformity. No. Take care in understanding what they are showing you. See how it is. Look at the risks in between what they are showing you, and then see how you can support them and identify those risks. See how they can also manage those processes. And that's what makes you a good auditor. You have to be vast also. Right. So our management review is also part of performance evaluation clause 9.3. And then there should be The standard has stated what they want to be discussed in the management review meeting. You can see from A to G. So if you have a slide and then you talk about all of these line items from A to G, then you have fulfilled requirement clause 9.3.2. Now 9.3.3 is now saying, because we understand that beyond just carrying out a management review, there should be an output, an action in place. What is management doing to ensure that from our management review meeting, the discussions that we had, these are the action points to ensure that we put process in place and then we close out on things, right? And that is also part of performance evaluation clause 9.3. Now, once you are done evaluating the performance of your information security management system, you are done evaluating the performance of your information security management system. What is the next thing? Because in evaluating the performance in your clause 9.1, monitoring and measuring your processes and controls. Clause 9.2, carrying out an internal audit of your processes. Clause 9.3, management coming to review what you have done so far. The next thing is to put what in place, improvement. You improve on the processes because you must have identified shortcomings, non-conformities, observations, opportunity for improvement. And then clause 10 is focused on improvement, where you continually improve. And that is why when I see companies always saying, we don't want OFI, we don't want anything, all we want is conformity, and they are trying to fight some very clear non-conformities, opportunity for improvement, I laugh. Because non-conformity is not a sin. It helps you, until you have that mentality as an organization, it helps you to improve your process when a non-conformity is identified. It is not possible that you get everything, like you get everything totally. In fact, you need to be scared as an organization that an auditor is coming every year and you are in conformance with everything every year. And that is why it is better that you change your auditor after every three years. Understand? To remove that familiarity and then that bias also. Right. The company I started auditing from Monday, they are implementing 4 standards: information security, business continuity, cloud security, and cyber security. What I told them in the opening meeting is, I know that you people are in conformance with a lot of these requirements, but I'm not coming to look for whether you're in conformance. I'm coming to look for improvements. And when I meet with the process owner, the first question I ask is, in the last 1 year, what is the improvement within your process? So there is continual improvement. There is always room for improvement. In fact, if you as an auditor comes to audit a company and then within their continual improvement log or the log where they identify improvements, right, and there are no improvement documented, is a big red flag. It is not possible that within a year a company will not have initiative for improvement. And the sources for this improvement and non-conformity should not only come from internal and external audits. It can come from security reviews, it can come from team meetings. In fact, it can come from interested parties like your customers. Your customer can see a particular flaw in your system and report it. That's an opportunity for improvement. It can be a non-conformity for you to put corrective actions in place and then you close them, right? So we can see the structure of the ISO 27001. Having the mindset, understanding of this structure helps you to be able to implement the ISO 27001 effectively, from context to improvement. And that takes us to the end of the management clauses. Do we have any question before we go on to what was it called? I think I gave some people some tasks to come and discuss Annex Controls for us. No. Okay, any question? Yeah, Bukola.
Okay. Concerning the improvement aspect, I know that there has to be improvement, but in a situation whereby the organization on its own don't want to, in terms of, okay, these are our controls and we don't want to We just want to retain it like that. Do you still think they are still in conformity with ISO?
Yeah. So there is no part of the standard to force an improvement. Let me give a typical example. I audited a security operations center some years ago, and then I reviewed their access points, the devices, and then the devices were using WPA2. So WPA2 is one of the security protocols, right? Currently we're on WPA3 if we've not moved to WPA4. So but the access point devices, the access points, they have the capacity for WPA3, but they were still using WPA2. Now, WPA2 is susceptible to dictionary attacks, right? And I gave them a recommendation, an opportunity for improvement to move to WPA3. Now, the company, but in my recommendation, and that's why I said this is what makes you a good auditor and gives you more experience. The recommendation was ensure that before you make this move, it must go through change management. Because auditor, if you get into trouble, if you tell the company expressly to do something, especially when it is speaking to technical controls, ensure that you know what you are stating. I told them, let's go through change management. Because if they automatically change all of the system to WPA3, there are some laptops that will not see the access points if it's on WPA3. There are some devices that will not connect if it's on WPA3. So the company can decide to say, okay, we are not going to improve on this until we get devices that can all go on WPA3. You understand? But there are some core measurable improvement that a business can improve on if they decide to be stagnant. Because you see those little improvements that you are not doing, they later come and haunt you. So an auditor, what you can do is to recommend for them, when you bring all of the improvements together and let them know that all of these improvements chunked together is a big issue within your organization. If you have decided not to improve within the organization. But I do not think, except the cost and the benefits, except the cost outweighs the benefits, the company can now say, we don't want to make this improvement. This cost is too much for what we are going to benefit from it. Yes. Apart from that, I do not think any organization will exist that will see opportunity to improve, and then they have the process to improve, they have the resources to improve, and they will not improve. Right. I hope that that answers your question. Okay. All right. So I shared, for someone that hasn't implemented IMS before, would you advise they be the lead implementer or an internal auditor during the IMS audit? You cannot audit what you have not implemented before. Let me rephrase. You cannot audit what you do not have an understanding of the implementation. So it will be easy for you to audit when you have been part of an implementation. You will be able to give value. I'm not saying you cannot audit without implementation, but if you really want to give value, at least be part of an implementation at some point. You understand? But an auditor, in external audits, you may necessarily not be part, because external auditor, you are the God, you are the Alpha and Omega. So whatever you ask them, they will answer you. You understand? But internal audits, they will identify your flaws. In fact, in external audit also. Okay, today now on the call, in the audit, one of the auditee, the GRC manager in the company, asked me a very critical question, and the management was on the call. The company, you see the CISO on the call, you see the chief legal person on the call, you see this one on the call. Asked the question and I answered, and she was like, okay. You understand? For educational purpose. So if you don't have that understanding of how implementations are done to some extent, it may be hard for you to audit. You will struggle. I mean, I hate when I struggle. That's why I study. It's not like I love studying like that. but because I do not want to look stupid in front of people, right? I study to build my confidence. So try to be part of some implementation, right? I'm not saying you know everything, no. There are some times that I bobo clients too. So they this. I don't know it in total, but because of some other knowledge, I just bring the knowledge to them. I give it to them. Once we are done with that kind of audit, I just go back. I go and study that. This person asked me this thing. Make a note for my hand, and then I come back again to give concrete answer. Right. So be part of implementation. You understand? Be part of implementation. I audited one of the major fintechs in the country some time ago, and then the people you audit, these people have been 25 years in this role, and you just started cybersecurity maybe in 3 years, maybe 3 years or 4 years, but they give you the respect because of your knowledge, because of your visibility into how some of these things are done. So be part of implementation, and then before you go into audit. But if you do not have a choice, because sometimes the company will throw you under the bus that go and audit, please do the audit. You can learn from there also, right? There is no one way to this life. You can learn from audit, but it will be better when you start with implementation. All right. Any other question or contribution? Any other question or contribution? Question or contribution? Okay, let's finish the whole training and then we take general questions. Let me see. So who and who did I mention? Who and who? Let me see. Where is that group?
Mention my name.
Yeah, I know that I mentioned. I gave you maybe Annex 8 or something. I want to start from. Okay, so Folashade, Annex 5. Do you have Folashade on the call? Okay, Folashade did not join. Folashade that is always joining class did not join today because of assignments. Miracle, Annex. Okay, Miracle is Annex 8. Bukumi is Annex 6. So Bukumi, Annex 6. Tell us what you were able to gain, to learn. Hello, Bukumi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. That person that is giving you expo, pay the person.
Nobody is giving me expo. The network is kind of bad, so I'm trying to switch network. So that was like I was using my system.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I gave you a task on Monday.
Yeah, you
Was it
gave
on
me a
Monday?
task. Yes, on Annex 6.
Yes.
Yeah, that I should go and read on it and come and teach us.
Okay, so tell us. Just give us rough
So
yeah.
Annex control is just basically related. It's basically about people control, and we know that in our for our courses, 6.0 has to do with people control. It's more of related to what the HR, human resource management people are supposed to do. Firstly, 6.1 talks about screening and what happens in screening. Screening is more like for banks and other financial institutions and to other institutions, they have to do what is called KYC check for their clients. So I would say for this one, the screening has to do with EDD. I would say oh God, why is the name not coming? EDD, enhanced due diligence on the employee, because first of all you have to do a background verification on the candidate. That's background verification. Ensure that this person doesn't have any past ensure that this person doesn't have any past I don't know, the word is not coming, but I don't know if I'm actually putting there. Sure that the person doesn't have any past criminal offenses, or even if it's possible, try to reach out to aside the details of the person, their basic information the person has given you, try to get a referee and all. Then if the person has worked in a previous place, you actually seek for a letter from the past employee and all, basically screening. Then terms and condition of employment, obviously, when that's clause annex, that 6.2 talks about terms and condition. It states that you hand over the employee a letter, and later you state everything that the employee is supposed to know and all, and then the employee signs on it, and after signing on it, the employee you'll be sure to know that the employee is actually has agreed to every rules, or let's say policy and procedure attached to
That's
it.
that's what
6.2 terms and
six
condition
point.
of employment.
Okay.
Yes,
Do you have the control with you? Can you read
yes,
out
sir.
what the control is saying?
The
Read out what the
employment,
control is saying.
the employment contractual agreement shall state the personnel and organization responsible. Oh, sorry, I'm talking from my head. Sorry. The employment contractual agreement shall state the personnel and the organization responsible for responsible and the personnel is responsible. The employment contractual agreement shall state the personnel and organization responsibilities for information security. So in this part now, it's going to talk about what the employee is supposed to do in relation to information security. It can have to be, that's where we now talk of 6.3 that talks about
Sorry, hold on. You see this 6.2, they are cheating a lot of us in companies, and that's because a lot of us do not even know our rights. I did politics in school when I was in my from my ND level. I started becoming a president of a faculty. So it made me understand the importance of signing documents. Like, I don't just put my hand and sign anything. No matter who is bringing that document from anywhere, I will review. You understand? Especially when it's a critical document. Now, look at what 6.2 is saying. Because Bukumi is saying only one part and leaving out the other part. Look at what the control says. It says the employment contractual agreement shall state the what? Bukumi, can you read it out? The personnel and what?
the personnel and organization's responsibility for information security.
What you are only saying is the personnel. You are saying, so you sign, you agree. The organization themselves have a responsibility to information security. And that's why on a lot of offer letters, you only have personnel's responsibility to information security. They'll tell you, you must not do this. When you leave the company, you cannot do this, you cannot join this, you cannot do this. Where is the one that states that they themselves cannot do this, cannot do that? They must not do this, they must not do that. Where is the part that states that they will not disclose any of your information to anybody, except it's for a legal cause? Maybe there's an IR, let's say the court is requesting for it. Where is it stated that they are going to keep your information for so and so time? Where are their own responsibility for information security within the offer letter? And when I meet with HR, this is what they tell me. Oh, we have it on our HR policy. We have it on our private policy. No, it is offer letter. That's what binds you with what binds the personnel with the organization. If you are stating what they should do on the offer letter, why are you not stating what you should do or what you are going to do as an organization on the offer letter? So the thing, this is what sets me apart in implementation and auditing. And I'm still learning and growing. I sit down to review the meaning of requirements. You understand? And you have proper understanding of what it is saying beyond just the books. Because our eyes can deceive us. And because ideally, if I read it also, my mind will be offer letter, sign. No. I saw one HR policy from one company, and I said, if they bring this kind of policy in my own company, I will just send a resignation letter before they give me to sign it. Because people are selling off their life without knowing. Do you understand? So there should be an agreement that binds you with the organization, that states what the company is going to do. that states what you are going to do. If you are going to put your neck down, let the company also put their neck down for you, right, at least to some certain level. Right. So I know Bukumi wants to go to 6.3 information security awareness, education and training. Yeah. Right. Can you skip to 6.5 and then we wrap up with 6.5? We can read the rest
Okay.
on our own.
6.5 talks about responsibility after termination or change of employment. So let me read the control. The control says information security responsibility and duties that remain valid after termination or change of employment shall be defined, enforced and communicated to relevant personnel and other interested parties. Sir, please, I would like you to explain this one for us.
See this woman. I should explain this one.
Sir, but you just
See,
explained.
they give
Sir,
you
you just
exam.
explained. Sir, you just explained 6.3 like
This woman is
explicitly
APC.
for us.
Are you marrying? You are married to one APC chairman or
No,
one?
no. Okay, so the way I will explain it, I will not explain the way you explain. No, you cannot compare now.
Don't worry, you explain it. I'll buttress on it. In fact, it's possible you will
Okay.
say something, but I don't know.
So for me, I would say it depends on the company's policy, policy procedure and policy when it talk regarding this responsibility after termination of employment. Some companies there are things that you have to do prior or during the process of you terminating your employment, in the sense that, oh, you have to sign some documents, they still have to do some interviews for you and all. What else again? And then if in the situation of change of employment, they have to give you another offer letter, because you cannot deal with the same offer letter they gave to you when you started. Okay, probably you got a promotion, or probably you got another position in the company. You have to come with another offer letter that is going to review whatever agreement that you had from the onset.
Okay, so that's part of it. Depends on the company's policy. But what this is basically saying is, when you leave the company, there are responsibilities that remains valid. For instance, you may not be able to work with a competitor in the next 2 years, depending on your role. If you work for critical companies. So for instance, also it can be maybe 6 months, you cannot work with a competitor, you cannot divulge also and so information. And then it is not only when there is termination of employment, also when there is change of employment. When there is change of employment. So imagine somebody working for Coca-Cola. Let me just give a typical example. The person has grown to the point where the person understands Coca-Cola recipe. The person now leaves Coca-Cola and then went to Biggie Cola. The person just resigned from Coca-Cola today, went to Biggie Cola tomorrow. What do you think will happen? So that is why we have controls that are strict like this. There is a certain level you get to in some companies. You cannot work with a competitor for the next 2 years, for the next 1 year, depending on your level. Now, beyond termination or resignation, also change of employment. It is possible that somebody left the information security department and is now in the IT department. But in some organizations, you see that access control, that access right that that person has in information security, they will not remove it. They will leave it. The person will now go to IT. The person will collect another access right. These are some of the responsibilities. Also, let's say, even though it is rare, let's say you leave the finance department to IT, even though it is rare, but it happens. You will not get to IT and you're not divulging information within the finance department, information that you have gotten from the finance department in IT. So those are responsibilities that are valid even after change of employment, even though you are still within the same organization. Right. So we can, Annex 6 is basically talking about people, how to manage people, and this control is just 8 in number. But you see these 8 controls, very critical controls. In fact, whenever I want to audit this control, I audited it with the company I'm auditing currently today. Whenever I want to audit this control, nobody stays on the call. Maybe the CISO, and maybe one person from information security, because there will be critical documents that you will review, background checks for people, criminal record checks, a lot of other things, people that they have yanked up because they said one rubbish on LinkedIn. You see this our social media page. Take it serious. I was speaking with a friend today too, and the guy said he has gotten the scholarship already. The last thing was he should show evidence of those things on his LinkedIn page, and he had nothing to present, like evidence of the things that he said you've been doing. You've been supporting the what's it called? The environment, the ecosystem. So let's see evidence. No evidence. Do you understand? And then the company I audited today also, they do LinkedIn check, they do advanced Google check to go deep and see some of the things you say, some of the things you do, some of the things you. So may the good Lord be with us. So that's typically people control. Because of our time, Mr. Robinson, physical security.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yes, yes, I can hear you. Good evening, sir.
All right, so yeah, good evening everybody. So I'd like to briefly just summarize physical controls as Annex 7, and this is actually speaking to there are actually 14 controls in Annex 7, and Annex 7 speaks to controls that measures the protection of a building, assets, people, equipment, anywhere information is stored and processed. What are the physical controls that actually applies to those things, right? I've mentioned processes, people, technology, equipment, all these things. Let's say, for instance, now in a building, let's say, I don't know if you go to some of these large enterprises, if you take cognizance when you enter some of them, you see fire extinguisher at the entrance. That's actually a physical control. And what is the control in place there in case of fire hazard? What's the risk that they are trying to avert should in case it happens? That's fire hazard. Should in case there's a fire outbreak, that control, that fire extinguisher that they have there would actually quench the fire. So fiscal controls actually just speaks to what are the things that you're actually putting in place. Now, when you also go to another example is when you go to some organizations, you do not just walk in, you just badge in. If you just badge into an organization, that is to say there's no access control in place, right? Now, in some places, I'm actually using my former organization as an instance because I helped in implementing some policies there because it was a very lean team. So I was doing AppSec and I was also helping out in the GRC side of things, right? So when you come to my former organization, right, you will see a security person at the standpoint. If you are not a staff, you have to write your name. All these things are access control. That register that person is writing, one way or the other, will come in handy. Let's say something happens in the office now, and we want to track back an event. Oh, how did this thing happen? How did we lose this thing? Who are the people that came to the office today? Is the CCTV camera working? Because it's not just enough to say that you have what's that nigga called now? It's not just enough to say that you have a register where people are writing their names and all of that. You are also ensuring that you have an evidence. Okay, what if the register that you have in place, and let's say it gets damaged, the water poured on it, and the people that wrote their names that day, or somebody even tore it, the CCTV will actually come in handy, right? So fiscal controls actually speaks to the measures that we take in ensuring that we protect buildings, equipment, people, physical environments, and information, that is stored and processed in that very building. And like I said, we have 14 controls that what's it called? The Annex 7 actually speaks to. And I'm actually saying this thing now from the top of my head because just like they will always say, I'm saying this thing from the top of my head. I'm trying to internalize it in such a way that let me know that at the end of this training, I'm actually saying this so that you too, you can also pick it as a practice. So that at the end of this training, you can say, oh, I can speak to Annex 7, I can speak to Annex 6, Annex 8, and so on and so forth. Right. So we have, for the sake of time, I might not be able to list all of them. So we have physical parameters, we have entry controls, we have securing offices and rooms, clear decks and clear screen, and so on and so forth. There are a lot of them, right? Now, at the end of the day, let's relate this thing now to what we do on our day-to-day basis. Like, well, let's make this thing practicable, because for you to be able to understand what this very annex is actually talking about, right, you need to, make it as relatable as possible. Just like Ende always say, this is something that he does. He has, at the beginning of this class, at some point, he used what's it called now? Beauty products. He also used he has used different analogies and illustrations to actually make us understand this thing, which is actually very, very beautiful. Now, when you talk about entry control now, how does this relate to our everyday thing now? Which was why at first I said access control. You cannot enter, even if you are a staff of an organization. I once worked at Chi Limited at some point, and because where I was living was very far, I needed to be coming to the office as early as 5 o'clock so that I can be able to do my personal stuff, because I was an office assistant at the time. So I had a lot of things I wanted to do for my personal stuff, because by the time everybody comes to the office, it's usually very busy. I was basically an errand boy. I would do this, I would do that, and all of that. So I do commonly. So one of the things that grants me access, due to the sensitivity of what Chi Limited was doing and the level of access I had, because I was actually working in accounts at the time, I needed an ID card. An ID card was what I needed to actually enter into certain places in the accounts department. These things are controls. In according to the Annex 7 now, we have entry control. Now, let me bring it down now. When you go to some certain schools now, you are not allowed in if you don't have, even if you're a parent, you're not allowed in if you don't have something that identifies that you are a parent or something, because of the incidents that we have seen happen, the kidnapping cases and all of that. So schools are beginning to now put in measures to ensure that you cannot come and pick up a child that is not your own. So they are now issuing things that looks more like ID card to say, oh, this is the father of Mr. Nkechi, this is the mother of Oluwabumi, as the case might be. So entry control actually speaks to something that actually grants you access into a certain place. So you cannot go to your office if it's a well-developed enterprise, right? I've mentioned Chi Limited. Chi Limited is a very big firm. The likes of First Bank. I currently work with Sterling Bank now, and all of that. At the gates, they will stop you. If you don't have your ID card, you have to go to the car park and go and fill a form there to show that, oh, you are gaining access there, and they'll have to communicate with each other to say, oh, this person is actually coming to so and so place. They give a description of it and all of that before you have been let into the banking building. Another thing is clear decks. I mean, a lot of us have seen this thing now in our organizations where they are talking about clear decks and clear screen policy. What does this actually speak to, right? Making sure that a lot of us handle sensitive information. How sensitive is the information that you're actually handling? You don't need to be the, oh, you are the one that have access to the DB, or you are the one that has access to what's it called now, a database or the vote or something. As long as you work for an organization, if some of the information that you have access to is very, very critical and sensitive. For someone like me that that has a background in pen testing and vulnerability management, right? As a result of the thing I do, if I am stepping out from my table, irrespective of the fact that everybody in my work organization, we are all working for Sterling Bank, right? But I still need to close my laptop to ensure that nothing is being tampered with in my laptop. So all these things now are controls. Another thing is surveillance. Are there CCTV cameras in place in your organization, things that are actually tracking who came in? Because if you say you want to go the route of having a register where people come and write their name, it's not as sufficient as possible, right? And even if you have the CCTV camera, do you have people still on ground? Do you have security personnel on ground? Because there are people that can disguise. CCTV camera cannot work, it cannot talk. The only job it is doing is just to give you surveillance as to who came in and who went out, right? It cannot stop armed men from getting access. That's the reason why you still have the need for what's it called now? Security personnel on ground, right? Now I'm trying to wrap up this whole thing that I'm talking about as it speaks to physical controls, right? You cannot let's say in an organization where you have let's say an organization that has data centers, they have server rooms and all of that. If anybody can access that room, they have not properly implemented an exception that speaks to fiscal control, right? If there's no CCTV, if they are unlocked laptops, right? If anybody can walk into your child's school and carry your child without the school actually doing scrutiny, I'm actually taking it down back because I want us to, have a feel of what I'm talking about. If anybody can come to your child's school and pick up, because whether you have a child or not, some of us will still have children at the end of the day. So anybody that can come to your child's lesson now and pick your child from the den, there's something wrong. You need to question that school and all of that. And also sensitive documents lying around in your offices are things that you really need to pay attention to. It means there is no fiscal control this thing in place because we have a policy called clear decks and clear screen policy. Right. So at the end of the day, before you move into the technical things, now when I mean technical things, I'm talking about technical controls and all of that. Cybersecurity actually starts, in my own opinion, it actually starts with physical security. If you don't know how to protect the information at your disposal, if you don't know how to stay aware of your environment, it will be very, very difficult for you to now handle things that you cannot see, sensitive information that you cannot see, and all of those things. So thank you. I believe I've been able to convince you and not to confuse you on what fiscal control is all about.
That is fantastic. So you see those days where we will have training and then probably maybe I have a lot of work that I cannot. There's like today now, I have 2 proposals to work on and I have to do them overnight because we have to submit them tomorrow morning. But I just know that I cannot bail out of tonight's training. So those days like that, I usually think of who can take trainings, right? And let me tell you guys one thing, and it's because of the way what's his name, Robinson, spoke tonight. One thing that set me apart and one thing that made me meet people, you see all those things that looks very hard, but they are the gateway to success and gateway to growth. Those are some of the things I run after, and audit is part of them. People run away from audit because it can be crazy if you don't know what you're saying. They will rubbish you intellectually. So they ask you some questions that will make you look stupid, or there's a way we rubbish ourselves. You understand? In corporate world, you not tell you that you are crazy, you don't know what you are doing, but there's a way we will do it that you know that if they show you, if God opens your eyes very well, you see that we are telling you waka. So training is one thing that helps you to meet people. Training, whether I started training for free, before I started monetizing it. I enjoy training. If I see somebody that can be sponsoring me, maybe from government, for me to be training people for free, I'll be willing to do it. I enjoy training people for free. You understand? I enjoy training people rather, not for free. Our mouth's done right now. So we should be able to teach the things that we do. And that is how we get better also. Right? I love how Robinson has explained this part. And to buttress on that, because I'll be calling some of us to come and take training. So as it goes on, and that's how you also build your portfolio. That's how you grow. You get everything I do and everything the team does. It is not easy for us to do them. I will not lie to you. It is not easy. It is not easy for us to do them. Right? It's not easy for us to do them. Everything we do is not easy for us to do them. But we do them because we are also trying to build a portfolio. You understand? So I cannot get to a level where I will need to get something and then they'll tell me to show evidence that, oh, I've supported the community or this or that. And then I'll just tell them, go to my LinkedIn page, or I'll just pick reference that, okay, I can send you so and so mail. So I'll be calling us to come and take some trainings, maybe paid trainings, maybe free trainings. So you come there, if it's Annex 7 you take, talk about Annex 7. If you take Annex 7 3 times, you are better. Right? So to buttress on Annex 7 is critical. It deals with eyes. If you cannot see beyond what the eyes can see, you may not be able to get things in Annex 7. So I was auditing the company I'm still auditing. I'll be giving examples from the audit I did today. I started an audit in the morning around 10 a.m. I met with the HR. On the HR tool, I saw that they have 171 staff on the HR tool. That's observation. That's what physical security needs. 171 staff on the HR tool. I did not document it. I did not write it down, but it got stuck in my brain. Now, it was in the afternoon around 3 p.m. We were doing access right review. And then we were looking at review of people, how people have access to critical platforms within the organization. And then the review of people, I saw 169 remaining 2 persons. And I asked the lady, what happened to the 2 persons? Is that there is no correlation between HR and the IT department? Or maybe there are lapses, there are times that you miss out on people that are hired within the organization. And then the IT guy said, no, we just got 2 interns today. And that's what made it 171 on the 2. Observation, your eyes. You will see beyond what people see. And they were like, okay, you they see you. That's it. That's my business. You understand? I think I've mentioned on this call also, I went to audit a data center last year. I and one auditor from another company. When the guy did his report, when I did my report, the guy was asking me, when did you see this one? When did this? I started my audits from the estates, not inside the data center. Because the first thing a data center needs is that it should be far from urban unrest. Like if a data center is within where, if there's riots in Lagos, people can quickly enter, then that is not a good data center for you to have your systems. So I had started my audit from the estates, and that's how I audit to the gates, to the building, and they will ask you, when did you see this one like this? Understand? I went to audit a company also some month ago. The DVR that houses the CCTV camera, and that's equipment siting and protection, Annex 7.8. The DVR that houses the CCTV camera is inside of the storeroom that anybody can just enter. So if there is an event, if there's an issue, somebody can go and carry that DVR, and then there will be no evidence, no correlation of events. And there has to be a recommendation. That's what makes you an auditor, right? You need to be able to see beyond, because sometimes they'll tell you they have it, but is it working? There's a core router, there's a router within the organization that serves the organization, and they put that router under what's it called? Air conditioner that can drip water, can damage it. That's equipment siting. You understand? So, and then other controls around that. Yeah, thank you, Robinson. So for Annex 5, we don't have Folashade on the call. We are all going to study that speaks organizational controls, controls around administration, contact with authorities, contact with special interest group, how policies are communicated, acceptable usage, access control into the organization also, even though access control has a touch point on Annex 8, technological control. So let's have Miracle, let us have Annex 8, and then we can end this training.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Wait, Miracle. Is Miracle a guy or a lady?
Lady.
Wait, is Miracle part of the people that we gave a voucher?
Yes.
I will soon be lying.
Yes.
We were saying we have 2 guys.
I actually did not know that the person is a female.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Okay, yeah, Miracle, please go on.
Okay. First of all, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to participate in the training and being able to also get the voucher. I'm grateful. So I'll be talking about Clause 8, sorry, which deals with operational planning and control. So 8.1 talks.
Hey, Miracle has missed this thing. I did not say Clause 8. I said Annex 8, Miracle. Technological controls.
I did Clause 8.
You read Clause 8?
Yes.
See this woman, Clause 8 that I have taught you. person that just joined now, Kenena Okoye, has this person joined this training before since we started? There's so many names that I don't
I
even
think
know.
about once or twice or so. One or two
Okay,
times.
okay. Yeah, so Miracle, let me help you out since you did not.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay,
so
thank
Annex
you.
8, yeah, thank you. Annex 8 is focused on technological controls, right? And then you see this Annex 8, the controls there needs to be tools to manage some of these controls effectively. And then you need to open your eyes also. You need to open your eyes. Let me give us a typical example. Annex 8, now, before we go to Annex 8, at what point will an organization not implement Annex 7? Miracle, can you help us? At what point, the whole of Annex 7, 7.1 to 7.14, at what point will they not implement it? Hello, Miracle.
Yes,
Do you
I'm
have
with
anybody?
you. I'm with you, but
Yeah.
I don't have this thing with me now. The PDF with me.
Okay. The question is, at what point? Yeah, Robinson.
So, at what point will an organization not implement Annex 7? In my own opinion, I don't think there would ever be a point like that. But if there is, it's not going to speak to all the controls. So let's take, for instance, now if they are working, if the organization is an organization that is that they work remotely, there's no physical office and all of that. So the controls will not actually apply to them, while some will apply. I don't know if I'm right or wrong.
Yeah, so sometimes all of the controls may not apply to them in Annex 7. They may exclude all of the controls in Annex 7 if they do not have a physical location. Do you understand? Because I cannot do physical security perimeter for all of the staff I have. I cannot do cabling security for all of the staff. I cannot monitor equipment siting for all of the staff, right? So, but clear desk and clear screen can be applicable. However, they can still exclude all of these controls if they address clear desk and clear screen in Annex 8.1. Know that Annex 8.1 speaks to user endpoint devices, your laptop and desktop. So they can say, physical security is speaking to our physical space, but no, nobody works in physical space. But we address clear desk and clear screen. In fact, it's just clear screen. We will address clear screen in 8.1. Or maybe clear desk also, just tell people when you work in your house, ensure that you don't put confidential information, blah, blah, blah on the table. So, but there are periods where a company may not include any control in Annex. But it is not possible that Annex 5, Annex 6, and Annex 8 will be entirely excluded from an implementation. Yes, Bukumi.
Okay, Kenny, sorry, before Bukumi goes, I just wanted to ask, for organizations that work remotely, they don't have a physical office, right? You've explained that there would be a time like that. Now, for governance sake, how do you know that, let's say things like Clear Screen and Clear Dex, that they are actually implementing it?
Yeah. So what this business do is there are tools that implement these things. For instance, you can have an MDM like Microsoft Intune that enforces clear screen. Clear screen has different domains. Clear screen can be, you have screen timeouts that is enforced, they cannot change it. So once they leave the screen goes off automatically. That's part of clear screen. Also, what some other organizations do is that they review, for companies that do not have plenty staff, they review what's on your screen at intervals, or they tell you to send screenshots. Everybody sends screenshots. They can just sample a particular department. Everyone sends screenshot of your screen, and then people send screenshots of their screen for clear screen. Do you understand? So for clear desk, what you can do is just awareness, continual awareness, because you're not in their house, and then have policies, HR policy around that. If so and so thing happen because of you, there will be so and so thing. You understand? So that's also puts people in check. Yeah. So Bukumi.
That was the question I wanted to ask. Yes, I already asked it already.
Okay. All right. So because of our time, yeah, Akbe knowing.
Yes, good evening, everyone. So to answer your question, in a case where Annex 7 would not be applicable is where you know an example where an organization's IT infrastructure is managed by a third party. In a case where, for example, some part of their IT infrastructure is managed by a third party, whereby in the case of their backup, is managed by a third party where the third party is the one that is responsible for taking backups. Their change management process is the third party that is responsible for managing changes within the applications that they use for within the organization. Um, Basically, that's a typical example of where. So in that case, they would not have a data center. They would not have a database where or a server in a physical location because it is managed by you know a third party. So there would be no need for a data center or anything of sort like that, where physical security might be applicable to.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So that is if they have a third party, right? Akbe, sorry, I was
Yes,
totally
please.
lost.
Yes, please. If
Yes, yes.
if yes, please. If
Like
the
AWS.
transfer of yes, exactly.
Yeah. So like AWS, physical security, you don't have any what's it called? But there are some companies that they put their cloud service provider under the scope, but not service providers like AWS, not possible. If you will not even smell where their data center is, regardless of reaching there stand. So technological control, we can read it also, right? It just speaks to controls around user endpoints, your laptops and desktop, privileged access rights, how to restrict information access to program source code, secure development lifecycle, network management, network security, segregation of networks, capacity management, right? Configuration management to ensure that system configurations are not changed, are not tampered with, what processes are in place. So we can read these controls. Anyone we are not clear of can drop it on the group. So on this capacity management, very, very fantastic stuff also. I audited the company, I think, around last week. So I reviewed their capacity reports. So they had mentioned that whenever their servers, their resources, whenever it gets to 80%, they are going to get alerts. That means it has hit their threshold. Their threshold was is 80%. They are going to get an alerting and they communicate, send mails to the business. And when I reviewed their report for last month, I saw that there's a particular report that has hit that threshold, and I requested for evidence of that alerts that they got, and there was no alert. So that means there's a configuration issue somewhere. So your assessment, your implementation should be value-based, where they see some of those things that they are not doing and not necessarily. And that's why people enjoy my audits. I don't come to look for non-conformity. I come to solve your problem and then ensure that you build up your system more. So we have come to the end of the 33 initiative. So glad to have you guys here. This is a fantastic period, and I hope that by this time next year, we are all doing greater things, because I know that we are doing great things already. Right. So we want to ask for one small what's it called? What's English? Hey, borrow me that English. Borrow me that English. We need one small thing from you, one small help, right? And this is voluntary. You are not
It's favor.
mandated to do it. One small favor. You are not mandated to do it. It is voluntary. If you can do like a 1 minute, 2 minute video of this training, of the initiative, right? Can state your name, what you feel about the initiative, the kind of value you get, how you think initiative like this should come up, maybe the values that people can get also, and then any other thing that you want to add. Please reach out to Shei if you feel like doing it, right? It is not mandatory, it is voluntary. You can reach out to Shei drop your name with Shay, and then we expect the video when you can do it. Just look for a good background and then have the video, right? Yes. Then for those who want the voucher, my people said it is required for you to do it though. If you want the voucher, that's your own way of giving back also, right? So you can just talk about the initiative. That's for Bukumi, Miracle, and then I think one other person was. So for people to know that I don't really know the people that they picked. So I've forgotten the name. Right. So please let us send our information to Shay latest by tomorrow. Get ready to write your exam by next week Saturday. And then I wish you best of luck. If you have any question, the group will still exist for some time now. I think for some period, until probably we have to remove you guys and add you back to the free GRC group. We'll continue our conversation from there. But the relationship is still there. You can always reach out. You can always have conversations also. And this is November. December is almost here. If you have any oblate, please invite us. So let me go and oblate here. Let me go and relax my head. Right. I am available. Right. So thank you everyone. We appreciate you for joining this training. You can share the YouTube link with any of your friends or families. Let them also watch the training and the video, right? So also stating we have an office now, which was opened officially on my birthday. We have an office of Cyber Cadabra. That office is built to do great things. And then build more initiatives like this. Right, we have a phone number. I'll drop the phone number on the group where the communication will go there. So I want somebody to be able to manage, because I miss out in a lot of things, and some people think I'm evil and wicked. Sometimes they message me, I may not respond until the next day. So I need somebody that will be able to respond to them or follow up with me to disturb me to say, oh, so and so person needs this information. And that is why we are setting up that office to also serve everybody well. Thank you everyone. Please enjoy your night, and then we'll take the conversation to the WhatsApp group. Good night, everyone, and bye. And then special thanks also to the team. She in short of wonderful, and then Olaide is not on the call. Special thanks to you guys for the fantastic job so far. We appreciate that also. Right. All right.
Thank you,
Thank you, everyone.
Daddy.
Yeah.
Thank you,
And good
everyone.
night.
Good night.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you.